Hi everyone, this is Raji. Let me share my screen. I think you all can see my screen, isn't it?
You see the screen, Raji, yes.
Well, so right. So today my tech talk will be on the framework of cloud adoption and well architecture for Azure. These are the two frameworks for Azure. I'm going to talk on why do we need cloud adoption and when we are going to use well architected framework. Before going to that, I am the Power Platform and Azure Solution Architect. I do have 19 years of experience in Microsoft technologies. I worked for public sectors and private sectors and also had mixed experience like managing the tenants and also migration from on-premises to cloud or cloud to cloud. Okay. Coming back to this topic, let's move on with the cloud adoption and understand what is the cloud adoption here and what is the purpose of using cloud adoption. So here, Microsoft has defined kind of a frameworks to maintain Azure and design some kind of governance policies, security policies within Azure environment. So the main purpose of Azure Cloud Adoption Framework is for organization level to define kind of strategies and make governance policies and help the people when they are doing the business transition from on-premises to cloud, and also the businesses who are very new to the cloud, what are the best practices, how they should define their environment. It gives a lot of information. It gives a kind of guidance, what are the risks are involved and what are the compliance policies every company should follow. It's a recommendation by Microsoft. I know every organization will have their unique approach. So these are just recommendations by Microsoft. So we can take this one as a guidelines. So this is the framework for the organization to transition of the cloud and optimize their cloud environment, enhance their governance policies. To give the overview of the cloud adoption framework, so this is the framework which has been defined by several stages. Each stage has its own focusing area, and the stages are strategy, plan, ready, adopt, and govern and manage. So these are the common stages like every architect look for initially when we're doing the transition business from on-premises to cloud, or when we are setting up the new environment for the business. So what kind of strategy? Again here, so strategy, every business will have its own unique strategy, but these are just recommendations. So we need to understand what are the motivations that we could provide to the business and what are the outcomes by defining the business objectives and providing the kind of motivations to the users. That's the first strategy. And coming to the plan, we need to have the action plan, how we are going to do either setting up the environment or doing the migration from on-premises to the cloud, how they can adapt the cloud journey within the organization. Ready, next stage, how we are preparing the plan to do the actions. So this is a kind of for both I'm including. So this is a cloud adoption framework, which is applicable for the migration, setting up the new environment for the organizations. And the next one is adopt. So this is the action, how we are going to implement our strategies, plans, or the innovation process to adapt a new technology, like a cloud technology within the organization. So this is a high-level points. I'm going to take you in depth each and every point, like under strategy, what are the Azure tools are there. I'm going back to the govern here. So this is establishing the governance practices. So Microsoft has defined a lot of policies and practices for the checklist to govern our Azure environment. And once we defined our governance policies, how we could manage, how we can give continuous reviews, how do we adopt the risk analysis, how do we improve our environment, that is going to be under the manage. So there are so many monitor tools out there in the Azure. So what is the importance of the framework? Why we should use it? So the importance of the framework is really it provides a structured approach to the organization to follow certain stages and make the life easy for the users and organization, and it also reduces the risks which are associated with the cloud migration. We may hearing a lot of times like there are malware attacks, ransomware attacks within the organization. So once we follow this approach, there are chances like we can prevent a lot of risks and a lot of attacks within the organization by defining the process, policies, governance, and security. I'm going to explain each and every stage of the cloud adoption framework. So the first one is strategy, how we can define the strategy in the business. We need to motivate users to adopt the cloud technology. So under what circumstances they need cloud adoption. So these are the points. The first thing we need to consider the business objectives in the form of cost efficiency, scalability, agility, security, and innovation. So when we are considering the cost efficiency, what we're going to consider, so whether it could be operational expenditure or organization capital expenditure. And scalability, what level of scalability we need. So we need to identify what are the resources that we need to organize within the organization for scalability. And agility, agility is very important for the organization to save some time at the resource level or at deliverable levels. So this is the faster time to market and improve the responses in the business objectives. And next, under strategy, what we going to define security. Security is the future, like every industry needs to look to prevent the attacks. Either it could be malware or ransomware attacks. And the last point, innovation, under the motivation, is like what kind of innovations that we can encourage from the people. Either it could be new technology to be used, or new plans, new solutions. It's like implementing the new technology within the Azure environment. So that kind of strategy we have to define. So under strategy, we have to assess what are the organizational readiness. To decide the cloud adoption journey under strategy, it is very crucial point to the organization to get ready and define the plan which we could do in actionable. So it could be assessing the IT infrastructure or assessing the resources, skill sets, processes, and work cultures within the organization. So we need to identify under strategy all these points. We need to understand the factors to identify the challenges within the organization and gaps as well, whether it's the technical gaps or business gaps or collaboration between the departments within the organization. Next one, plan. Once we define the strategy, next stage is planning. How we going to plan the environment, or how we are going to plan the migration. Either it could be lift and shift or on premises to the cloud. So these are the objectives under the plan. We need to identify the scope and objectives. We need to identify the timelines of each and every stage. And we need resource allocation plan, and we need the risk management allocation. So this is the way how we can prevent a lot of the things. So this is going to be a theoretical explanation because this is the cloud adoption framework is a guidance from the Microsoft when we are setting up the organization. And the next one, under the plan, we need to identify the stakeholders. Who will be the stakeholders for migration or setting up the environment? Either it could be IT related stakeholders, finance, legal, business units. We need to identify and engage all these stakeholders at early stage of processing the setup of environment or migration process. Otherwise, we are going to redesign our plans again and again if we are not including the stakeholders at initial stages. And next, we need to build up the team here under the plan, who are going to set up the environment, who are going to do the migration work, and what is the plan of the resources. We need to create a dedicated team to drive the process and identify to give the demo to the stakeholders. Either it could be POC or pilot projects. And the next stage is ready. So once we've done the strategy and we plan how we are going to do the, either it could be set up an environment and migration, then we have to prepare the ready plan. So for the cloud environment, we have to prepare the ready plan based on the governance and skill levels of the development team. So these are the very important things. Without having a proper governance plan, we can't protect our environment, or without having the development skills from the resources. It's a showstopper for us. So these are the two things how we can identify the ready plan. The next one, how do we adopt? So when we planned, we have to adopt. So there are the adoption environment in 4 varieties. As I said, if we are doing the migration, it could be lift and shift of the migration environment or replatforming, like making the lot of changes. Some people will have the multiple tenants. We might integrate each tenants under one subscription, or refactoring. It's like redesigning our total Azure environment and explaining like what are the cost-effective advantages of refactoring the environment or rebuilding it, completely redeveloping the applications. There are some places where people use old technology. Let's say, for example, when we are doing the authentication, I know multi-factor authentication is a very famous one everyone uses these days. I'm just giving an example for rebuilding. So these days, the common thing is passwordless authentication or self-reset authentications. So these where we can minimize the cost to the organizations, and we can exclude the operations team as well. Under adopt, the next point is execution of the migration. So we have to adapt the migration here. So we have to understand what is the workload when we are doing the migration. Example, when we are doing the migration from on-premises, we need to identify the workload. Either it could be files or SharePoint sizes, on-premises SharePoint sites to the cloud environment, everything, or onboarding the users from on-premises to the cloud environment. How do we are going to adopt the migration plan? Here we can define the number of the phases under the first. Again, it's depending on the workloads. So each initial phase, we can identify what are the things like prioritizing the workloads. So that way we can minimize the risks, and we can do very good job continuous testing or validating our migration processes smoothly. Otherwise, we will end up doing testing once we've done the migration again and again. Okay. And again, here it's innovation. So there are so many ways of doing migration here. As a part of adoption, we have to encourage the people to use the new technology, either using the AI PowerShell scripts or machine learning solutions using the Python scripts. So there are so many new technologies that we could adopt under the innovation stage. And govern. What is the next stage as a part of the cloud adoption framework? So this is the govern, one of the best stage when we are setting up the environment. So we have to introduce the governance practices. That could be through the policy management, cost management, and security and compliances. So, again, these are the Microsoft defined governance areas. So each organization will have its own unique governance policies. And next, monitoring and reporting. How do we do? How do we govern environment? So we keep on continuously monitor environment and identify are there any crucial incidents are there. Keep checking the health services from the dashboards and report the incident to the specific team. That's the way how we improve our environment. We can generate the compliance reports also from the Azure portal. And the next one, adapting the governance to changes. As Abdul given demo, so access review packages we can create to automate a kind of some day-to-day activities, like to raise the permission requests, to say access requests, to add the members to the site. So that kind of small works, we can adapt it by doing the governance policies, or creating the lots of conditional access policies. It's just like we need to adapt the governance policies to make some changes rather than going for the manual things here. The next stage is manage. How we are going to manage our environment. So these are the things again under manage. So Azure is a kind of environment where we can do a lot of things under manage. So here we have to manage the operational activities, like day-to-day management activities. How we are going to do day-to-day activities. Example again, monitoring tools. How we are going to monitor the risks. If there are any problems, how we are going to operate it. So optimization again, how we are going to do the optimization. So these are the things we need to include as a part of the manage when we are defining the environment. Security management, compliance management. So these are the theoretical knowledge, like when we are doing the Azure management, what are the things we need to identify. But when coming to the real Azure portal, what are the tools that we can use it to implement those stages? So again, these are the things from my knowledge and based on the Microsoft sites. So there are tools available in the portal to implement this Azure Cloud Adoption Framework, Azure Migrate Services, Azure Blueprints, Azure Policy, Azure Monitor. I'm not going in depth each and every point here because that's a separate going to be a separate topic here. So I'm just giving high level what are the tools we can use from Azure to support all those 6 stages to implement the Cloud Adoption Framework. There are some third-party tools also available in the market, not only just Azure tools. So what are the third-party tools? It's like a cloud management platforms, like a Cloud Heath and Cloud Checker to check the health services in the environment, and security tools like Palo Alto Networks and checkpoints are there where we can use the third-party tools. There are some DevOps tools in Azure like Jenkins, GitHub, and Terraform. So DevOps is a kind of managing the things, either it could be continuous monitoring, continuous integration, and automation to do some kind of deployments in the different environments. There are some best practices to implement as a part of the Cloud Adoption Framework. We always start with the small and scalable work, so that way we can implement the pilot projects and adapt the new strategies, our planning workloads, and identify if there are any risks are there, and we can prevent when we are doing the real projects, either it could be migration or environment configuration. And we need to engage the stakeholders from the early stages of the environment setup or migration. Otherwise, we need to keep changing our plans where there is a lot of risk involved, either it could be time-wise, cost-wise, resource-wise. And the next point, we need to prioritize the security and compliance. So as we all know, we are working on the Azure platform. When I say security, it's a general term. and it has a number of the layers, security layers from Azure key vaults, Azure storages, Azure databases. It's like a hell lot of tools are there under the security. So we have to prioritize based on our organization workloads. And the compliance, again, it depends on the country and region. The compliance we have to identify. There might be so many compliances based on the UK, GDPR, and there is FCCS is there, and government project GDS compliances are there. We need to identify. For the financial sector companies, they don't need all this GDS, they just need GDP. It's like based on the organization, we need to identify what could be the priority for security and compliance establishments. And continuous improvement. So it's not like a one-time job. When we are doing the migration or setting up the environment, it's a continuous improvement. We have to regularly check our health checks, risks, and are there any incidents or attacks are there in the Azure environment or not. So these are the things that just we identify as a part of the migration, rather than doing all in one place, just to do it as a pilot project and understand the risks and prevent them. So this is the conclusion about the Azure Cloud Adoption Framework. So by saying this one, we can say just 6 steps, but this is not the 6 steps. We have to understand each and every stage and define a lot of objectives for each stage here. It's depending on the organization here. But this is very useful for the organizations to prevent a lot of the risks. And this is the link, like if I click on this one, Microsoft is provided guidance document here. So there is a lot of information here. So I can put the link in the chat. If anyone interested, they can go back. Yeah, please refer the link to understand the more about the Cloud Adoption Framework. So these are the stages of the Cloud Adoption Framework, and the tools, third-party tools, how we can maintain the Azure environment by following the best practices from the Microsoft. And the next topic is WAF, Azure Well Architected Framework. It has its own pillars like Cloud Adoption Framework, but it's slightly depending on the workload. Cloud Adoption is gives the guidelines at organization level to understand the business objectives of the organization. But Azure Well Architected Framework, this is particularly targeted to a specific workload. So this defines the best practices, tools based on a particular workload rather than the organization level. So what is the introduction? What is the WAF here? WAF really provides a consistent approach to evaluate and improve the quality of the workloads which are running in Azure environment. Organizations, a lot of organizations can Azure their cloud applications are designed and operated according to the best practices. They improve a lot of performance, security, reliability, and cost efficiency per workload rather than organization level. So this is the framework has pillars, 5 pillars: cost optimization, operational excellence, performance efficiency, reliability, and security. So security is there at part of organization level also, but drilling down at each workload level, how we could implement the security. So it shows the difference, different layers of the security. The first one, cost optimization. How do we do cost optimization in organization? I pointed out a number of the points here. We need to analyze what are the optimized costs are there in the business. and we need to provision resources efficiently and use consumption-based models like pay-as-you-go. Azure is really good consumption-based. So what are the resources we are using as a part of the workload? We could pay to that particular resources, or we can pay monthly basis also. So we need to identify to optimize our cost here. And we need to optimize the cost governance also. Let's say, for example, Microsoft is providing governance policies in total like 320 or 40 are there. So we don't need all the governance policies. We need to identify what works for our organization. For example, Defender. Defender is one of the governance tool. When we are having the Defender for each and every workload, it's the most cost effective. We need to identify what are the main risks areas so that we can save some cost to the organization. And these are the best practices of the cost optimization. We can utilize Azure cost like managing and budgeting by keep monitoring and analyzing spending, how much we are spending, either it could be monthly, quarterly, or annum. We need to set the budget alerts to track spending and avoiding overspending also. So these are the best practices how we can achieve cost optimization. And also we need to plan cost analysis. We regularly review cost reports to identify cost saving opportunities, and Azure cost analysis to drill down into cost data and find inefficiencies, like wherever the resources we don't need, we can kill. Like one of the example, virtual machines. We don't need it. Virtual machines keep running all the time. It depends. If we don't need, we can turn off the resources where we can do the cost optimization for the business. And we need to provision the resources effectively. As I just give an example, virtual machines, we need to identify what are the resources we needed, provision those resources only in Azure environment. It's like right size resources. It depends, like do we need scaling automatically, or can we do it manually? Either it could be resizing virtual machines or Azure App Services plans. We need to take the right decision when we are sizing the resources here. And we need to reserve the instances also, like when we reserve the IP addresses, for example, for your particular Azure apps or VMs, that saves a lot of amount for the company rather than paying as pay as you go. So we need to identify what are the things that we needed as a part of our functionality to achieve the business goals. So that way we can achieve the cost also. We need to leverage the Azure functions and logic apps here because these are the consumption-based models. As I explained, we need to identify what type of resources we needed and what type of usage we need for each and every resource. So one of the example, Azure functions and logic apps, these are the consumption-based models where serverless functionality we can use for the customization of the environment, and also auto-scaling. So auto-scaling of all the app services and virtual machines is really good. So it works on demand. When we need more load balancing of requests for the app services, it must be chosen as auto scaling. So that way we can save a lot of cost to the organization. How do we can implement the cost governance? So optimizing the cost is one stage, and how do we provide the governance on the cost? So we need to tag the resources and cost allocation. Tagging resources is like grouping all related resources under one category so that it is very easy to identify, to understand the cost per resource. And we also need to identify the policies to enforce using of tagging for all the resources. And we need to allocate a certain cost to each and every departments, so that way we can identify whether the cost is utilizing correctly or not. So there are some tools to optimize the cost here. Within the Azure portal, we have Azure Cost Management and Billing, Azure Advisor, Azure Pricing Calculator, and Azure Cost Analysis. By using these tools, we can keep monitor our Azure environment and minimize the cost to the organization. And the next one is under WAF, so this is the second stage, operational excellence. How we could provide excellence operations within the business. Either it could be minimizing the incidents which are rising by the users, or by monitoring the risks or monitoring the attacks. We need to plan the operations and monitor and diagnose issues. We need to automate and optimize operations. It's like automate, as we just had a demo from Abdul, it's a nice demo. To create the access reviews. That way we can automate providing access to the users. So that kind of day-to-day activities, we need to identify where we can automate it. And we can respond to the incidents immediately, so that way we can reduce the risks within the environment. So those are the areas how to identify the operational excellence in the organizations, and these are the best practices how we could achieve. We need to design our operations, and we need to prepare our operational readiness. I'm not going each and every point here. So. And this is like a operational process. We need to keep monitor and diagnose the issues. We need to have the comprehensive monitoring. That way we can do the lot of risk analysis and prevent the attacks. And log management. We need to collect and analyze the logs using the Azure Log Analytics and set up the log retention policies to comply with the regulatory requirements. The next one, automate and optimize operations. So these are the so many things that we need to identify when we are setting up the environment or preparing for the workload. So how do we do optimization of the operations and automation in organization? We need to identify infrastructure as a code. There are a few Azure tools which I have mentioned, example ARM templates, Terraform and Bicep to implement the infrastructure automation. And we need to maintain the infrastructure configuration in the version control systems as well, so that we can reuse it later stage. Either it could be for backups or recovery systems. And the second one, automated deployments. So theoretically, yes, these are the points, a little bit complex, but when we start implementing as a checklist, it's very easy. As a part of the automation deployments, what are the things we could do it? Whether can we go for the Azure DevOps, which are continuous integration and continuous deployment stages? Sorry. Are there any third-party tools we could go for, like Terraform? Even open source GitHub Actions are also available in the Azure environment. And the next one is respond to incidents. So if there is any incident raised, how we can handle it? We need to raise the incidents management, and we need to analyze what could be the cause, the root cause for the incident. So this is the way we can implement governance and also optimize the operational smoothly in the organization. So that's a theoretical explanation. Coming to the Azure tools, what are the tools we have in Azure portal? So to do the operational excellence, we have a number of the tools in Azure. We can use the Azure Monitor, Application Insights, Azure Log Analytics, Azure DevOps, and Azure Service Health. So these are the tools available as a part of the Azure subscription. How we could improve the performance efficiency. So this is the third stage as a part of the WAF framework. So these are the principles we should follow to increase the performance. We need to design for performance, monitor performance continuously, optimize the resource utilization, and scale appropriately. So as I explained in my last point, auto scaling. We need to identify whether we need to go auto scaling or manual scaling or load balancing, traffic manager. So these are the tools that we should identify to set up the environment. So what are the best practices for the performance efficiency? We need to understand the workload activities. Can we divide the workloads or not to increase the performance? Let's say, for example, I'm just giving example, Power Automates here. Power Automates, we can write very lengthy Power Automate, which takes a long time, that leads to the performance issue. If we understand the workload and then we can do the partition to make it more user-friendly for the maintenance and also to improve the performance efficiency. And the second point is data partitioning, how we are handling the data. So how we are going to use the database strategies here is main important for the performance. How we can monitor the performance continuously to improve our environment. So there are application performance monitoring system is available in Azure and resource monitoring. So using the resource monitoring, we can track what is the utilization of the resources and what are the performance metrics are there. So the next one is optimize resource utilization. So there are ways how we can increase the performance at resource level. We can implement the caching when we are using either it could be Azure functions or database pulling requests. Caching is very good so that we can reutilize the data and do the load balancing between the regions. Otherwise, it may take a long time for each request response. So caching is the best option. And load balancing. Load balancing is a good concept. Either we could do the load balancing using the Azure load balancer or application gateways to distribute the traffic efficiently between the zones and the regions. And we have the health props to ensure health instances to receive between the traffic configurations. How do we improve the performance? So we have the scaling system at Azure app level or VM level or few other services. We can use the horizontal scaling or vertical scaling based on the requirement and improve the performance of the functionality. And also elasticity, we need to design the applications to handle dynamic allocation of the scaling. Either it could be vertical or horizontal. Azure functions and logic apps these are the event-driven scalability services, serverless services where we could use it and increase the performance of the custom functionality within the Azure environment. So those are the concepts and what are the tools available to increase the performance efficiency. Again, we could go for the Azure Monitor, Application Insights, Azure Kubernetes Services, Azure Load Balancer, Azure Caching for Redis databases, and scaling up and down of Azure App Services and virtual machines. The next stage in WAF is reliability. How we are going to do the reliability, how we ensure reliability of the system. So we have the 4 stages here to define the reliability. We need to design any functionality or resources for reliability, implement redundancy. So for example, when we are storing the data within the Azure storages, as a matter of failover or disaster recovery, we must have the redundancy within the Azure. So we should design redundancy implementation within the functionality, like within the organization. So that's going to be reliability of the product. And we keep on monitoring and do the automated recovery when the system is failure or where there is an attack, either it could be malware or ransomware attacks on the data. We need to plan disaster recovery also. It's not compulsory. These are the recommendations from the Microsoft, it depending on the data volume of each and every organization. So these are the best practices of the reliability. We need to identify fault isolation, graceful degradation. It's like we need to implement the mechanisms to degrade the functionality if there are any failures out there. Let's say, for example, we need to identify what is the functionality that we need to keep up all the time live to support the end users. So that's the way we can mitigate the failures of the product. So again, for the reliability, as I said in the last point, we need to implement the geography redundancy. Either it could be zone level or regions. We have the service redundancy also there. Rather than the storage or virtual machines, there is a service-based redundancy also available to make product always available to the end users. Health monitoring, automated failure. So these are another two best practices to make reliability of the function. Sorry. Any questions? Or okay.
There's no questions in the chat, Raji, at the moment.
Yeah, sure. So I know these are the theoretical points. So mostly as a concept I'm explaining. Sorry, I can't demo it because to demo each and every point takes a lot of time. I plan it in future. Yeah. So to optimize the sorry, can you come again, please?
Mine, you were very faint. We couldn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Raji. It was just I thought Moin was asking the question, but we couldn't hear you. It's okay. You carry on.
Okay, then, yeah.
Okay.
So we must define the disaster recovery plan to make more reliability of the product. Either it could be doing regular test disaster recovery plans or taking the Azure backups. Again, Azure backups is having number of layers. At what layer of backup we needed in Azure environment, we need to define as a part of the strategy. And the recovery points here as a part of the disaster recovery, there are 2 points are available at object level or time to time recovery. So we need to identify according to our business objectives. So that's the concept. And what are the tools available within Azure? So these are the tools available to do reliability. Azure Traffic Manager, Azure Availability Zones, Azure Site Recovery, Azure Backup, and Azure Monitor. And the last one, as a part of the WAF, security. How we are going to implement the security at a workload level. So security ensures the production for data, applications, or infrastructure. So this is a pillar which is provides a security for the identity management, protecting data, protecting infrastructure, and establishing effective security controls. Either it could be app services level or APIs level to customize the functions. So what are the principles of security? Identity management and access controls. We need to provide the security at the data protection, infrastructure protection, and security posture management. So these are the best practices of implementation of the security in the environment. At what layers we could provide the security. So at Azure Active Directory, either it could be using the multi-factor authentication or passwordless authentication, conditional access policies. We can go for the identity and access management. And the second one, role-based control, access control. We need to define role-based access policies to control the governance within the user, within the organization. Either it could be access controls or licenses controls. Identity protection. So this is the third point under the security layer. We need to provide the identity protection for Azure Active Directory to detect and respond to the suspicious activities. Let's say, for example, when we are providing access to the guest users, what level of access they do have within the environment, how do we control them? We need to implement privileged identity management to manage and monitor the privileged roles here. Either it could be internal tenant level members or guest user accesses. How do we provide the data protection? So under data protection, there are 3 layers here. We can protect the data within the Azure storage services, or we can encrypt the data when we are transiting through the APIs. That's the custom functionality using TLS or SSL protocols. The second layer, key management. We can store the passwords or we can store the certificates, cryptographic keys in the Azure keyword. So that's the best secured area. And we can implement automated key rotation policies. Key rotation policies are encrypted under the Azure keyword. Data classification and labeling. We need, so this is the one where we could use for the sensitivity information. We can classify the data. We can label at the Azure files level, Azure data level in the storage, and we can identify the information protection policies under this security layer. There are some data loss prevention policies also available under the security layer. So coming to the infrastructure protection, how we could provide the security. At network level, we could provide the security by creating the network security groups or allocating the Azure firewalls for the web applications or virtual machines. And we can use the Azure DDoS, it's a distribution protection safeguard. And second one is endpoint protection. How we could do the endpoint protection by enabling the Azure Defender or just-in-time virtual machine access. Bastion virtual machine is available these days. And the third one, security monitoring and threat detection. How do we monitor our threats? How we can take the action? So we can use Azure Security Center to identify the security threats, and we can resolve or find out the root cause of each and every threat. Or we can use Azure Sentinel for cloud native security information protection as well. And what are the best practices? How are we going to implement the security? So these are the things we need to identify when we are implementing the security. Either it could be management level or compliance level or baseline level. So we need to identify each and every area. And these are the tools available to define the security within the environment. Azure Active Directory, Azure Key Vault, Azure Information Protection, Azure Security Center, Sentinel, DDoS protection, Azure Firewall, network security groups, Azure Defender, Azure policies. These are the services available within the Azure. So these are used to define our environment or to define our custom functionality within the business. So again, this is a kind of summarizing how we are going to implement the WAF within the environment. So I'm going to read out all the steps here. So the first step, we need to assess the workloads, plan and prioritize the improvements, and implement the best practices under each and every stage. Last one, we need to monitor and iterate. Iterate is a kind of reusing the resources, and monitoring. It is a continuous process. Regularly, we have to visit the monitoring tools and identify the threats, apply the governance policies. It's going to be continuous improvement. What is the conclusion here? So this is the well-architected framework, provides a comprehensive set of principles and best practices to build and maintain the high-quality cloud applications. It increases the performance. It helps the cost optimization, operational excellence, reliability and security to the organizations. It also delivers the robust applications for the custom functionality and cost-effective solutions to the small companies as well. In implementing the WAF framework, it requires the continuous commitment. Either it could be development work or monitoring, assessing the new threats, developing the improvement plans. It's like a continuous process. We should have work culture where fostering excellence and resilience in the cloud architecture. So these are the continuous improvements. So this is not the one-time job. And this is a link from the Microsoft to implement the WAF. I'm going to add the link here in the chat window. So that's the concepts, like how we are going to improve our workloads within our organization, how we are going to deliver the best product, how we are preventing the risks and attacks. I know this is a very conceptual theory. It might be boring also, but it is really good having these kind of best practices within our organization. All right. So that's me. If you have any questions, feel free. Otherwise, thank you.